Picture this. I walked into my bathroom expecting to help my wife with her post-surgery bath, only to hear her blood-curdling scream slicing through the steam. There, crouched like a pastel predator behind a shower curtain, was Patty Hargrove, our beloved HOA vice president, clutching a tiny voice recorder with that signature tight-lipped smile. "Just verifying water usage compliance, Mr. Hayes," she said sweetly, as if breaking into homes was part of the welcome packet. "My name is Brian Hayes. 6 months ago, I was just another guy in Willow Creek Estates trying to keep the peace. Emily, my wife, had her hip replaced after a nasty fall on our non-compliant driveway slope. Yeah, the same slope Patty fined us $150 for because the angle was off by 2 degrees. She'd smile that same smile while sliding the violation under our door. Bless your heart, it's for property values, dear. Property values. That was her holy grail, her get-out-of-jail-free card for every ridiculous rule she invented on the spot. First it was the mailbox. Wrong bronze shade. $75. Then the tulips, approved color palette violation. Another $200. Emily paid them quietly while she waited for her pain meds to kick in. She never complained when Patty made her hobble outside with a measuring tape to prove the weeds were gone. But today, Emily screamed. I wasn't even in the room when it happened. I was in the garage tinkering with the smart home hub I'd installed 3 years ago. Legal, permitted, city-approved sensors for leak detection because the pipes in this 1970s house were older than Patty's sense of boundaries. My phone buzzed. Motion alert in master bath. Duration 47 seconds. Audio spike when a hand touched the curtain rod. Timestamped. Geotagged. And still recording. I sprinted inside. Steam billowed out like a horror movie fog. Emily stood frozen, towel clutched to her chest, eyes wide with the kind of fear no amount of community guidelines could justify. Patty didn't flinch. She just tucked the recorder into her cardigan like she was folding laundry and brushed past me. You've been flagged for inconsistent flow rates, Brian. We reserve the right to inspect. Without knocking, I asked, voice flat. Without a warrant? She gave me the smile again. You signed the covenants, darling. Section 14B, Emergency Compliance Checks. Bless your heart for being so dramatic. That was the moment the quiet guy in Willow Creek decided the war was on. I didn't yell. I didn't call the cops, yet. I just watched her click-clack down the driveway in her sensible heels while my phone kept logging every Bluetooth ping from the recorder she was still carrying. 3 years of redundancy backups, municipal-grade firmware, the same tech I used for city buildings. She had no idea the house itself was now a witness. By lunch, the violation notice slid under the door, hand-delivered, ink still wet. Unauthorized structural alterations, water monitoring devices. They were calling my legal sensors structural alterations. Emily sat on the couch wrapped in her robe, tea gone cold, staring at nothing. She hadn't spoken since the scream. Outside, a black SUV with tinted windows crawled past for the 3rd time that hour. Compliance patrol. I knelt beside her. I'm handling this. She finally looked at me. She was in our bathroom, Brian. While I was naked. She smiled. That night my son Tyler, Sergeant Tyler Hayes, home on leave, came downstairs after hearing the story. He didn't ask permission. He just opened his laptop and said, Dad, how far do we want to go? I told him all the way. Because you don't invade a man's home and strip his wife of dignity just to protect your little kingdom of perfectly painted curbs. Not in this house. Not ever. The next morning the neighborhood felt different. Garage doors stayed shut. Lawn chairs sat empty. People weren't living anymore. They were complying. Patty's weekly newsletter had arrived in every mailbox. Phase 3 Compliance Initiative. Random wellness checks for the greater good. Greater good. Code for more surprise visits. I took a walk, not for exercise, for intelligence. At the community mailbox cluster, a new laminated sign glowed in the sun. Our house photo zoomed in. Red circle around the side vent where my sensors breathed. Suspected unapproved technology. Inspection pending. Patty's signature at the bottom in red ink, underlined twice like she was signing death warrants. Across the street, the Sanders family got nailed for visual breach. Their fence slats were 1.2 inches apart instead of 1.0. They couldn't afford the $800 fix. Mrs. Sanders whispered to me over the hedge. She said if we complain, she'll check our daughter's therapy dog for excessive barking decibels. Therapy dog. A golden retriever that had never barked in its life. I nodded like I understood. Inside, I was cataloging. Because while Patty played neighborhood dictator, I was playing the long game. 3 external backups had already captured her little bathroom performance. Laptop, offline SSD, and a mirrored note I built when I still thought retirement would involve teaching my grandkids circuits instead of wargaming in HOA. That afternoon, I cornered Mark Denton outside the HOA office, the quiet treasurer who always clutched his folder like it was a bomb. He jumped when I said his name. Brian, I was just dropping notes. His eyes darted like a man who knew the walls had ears. You knew she went inside? I said quietly. He swallowed. She told the board it was a code issue. Probable cause. I didn't vote on it. But you didn't stop it. Mark's shoulders slumped. She controls everything. Half the board owes her favors. The rest are terrified of the same treatment. She's got a priority list. Homeowners she wants gone so she can flip their houses for her real estate side hustle. He glanced around, then stepped closer. She calls it curb appeal optimization. You and Emily moved up after the shed approval went through without her blessing. I didn't blink. She crossed more than a line, Mark. She stood behind my wife's shower curtain. He looked sick. I didn't know she actually went in. She never told us that part. His voice cracked. I have copies of the closed session notes. Timestamped. I haven't destroyed them. Not a confession. Not yet an alliance. But a crack. And in structural engineering, cracks are where the whole building comes down. That night, Tyler and I reviewed footage. Sure enough, 2 weeks earlier, someone with a clipboard had stood outside our bedroom window at 2 a.m., flashlights sweeping the eaves. The board was building their case like a spider spinning silk. Silent, patient, lethal. The next board notice wasn't paper. It was a knock on every door but ours. Patty's voice carried across the street. Section 9.4. Fence slat variance constitutes visual pollution. Repaint by Friday or face daily fines. The Sanders couldn't pay. Nobody could. I stepped outside casually, wiping grease from my hands. Patty turned with that smile. Mr. Hayes, received your second notice? I did. And I sent my response to the city, plus an inquiry into your enforcement protocol. Her smile flickered for half a second. Let's not dramatize, dear. Compliance isn't an attack. No, I said. But standing behind a naked woman's shower curtain is. The flicker became a crack. She left without finishing the citation. Tyler watched from the garage. She's unraveling. She's tightening the noose. I corrected. But ropes work both ways. By Thursday, the homeowner portal exploded. Someone, anonymous, of course, posted a screenshot of Patty's internal email. Phase 3 preemptive scheduling. Target the nonconformists first. Our address was highlighted. So were 6 others, mostly older couples, single moms, anyone whose property value she could squeeze. The thread lasted 11 minutes before Patty deleted it with a snippy note about unauthorized sharing. Too late. Screenshots spread like wildfire. Group texts lit up. Porch lights stayed on all day, not for safety, but as a silent scream. We're watching you back. Mark showed up at my door that night holding a thumb drive like it was radioactive. She asked me to erase everything. I told her I'd think about it. He looked 10 years older. Take it. Recordings, vote logs, the spreadsheet sorted by resale profit. She's not protecting the neighborhood. She's flipping it. Tyler plugged it in. Patty's voice floated out of the speakers, crystal clear. Just be firm, everyone. If they push back, say safety and wellness. People don't question wellness. Phase 3 isn't enforcement, it's message. We establish dominance before they start asking questions. We sat in silence while the garage smelled of oil and justice. The article dropped at 9:07 a.m. HOA Vice President linked to coordinated surveillance and unlawful home inspections. Exclusive audio reveals profit-driven campaign. By 9:22, the portal crashed from traffic. By 10:15, Tyler's printed flyers, black and white scans of the target list, were in every newspaper tube on the block. No commentary, just truth. Neighbors gathered at mailboxes in clumps, comparing notes like they'd just discovered they lived in the same prison. Maria from 2 houses down marched over with her garden journal. These dates match every random visit she made to my backyard. At night, Patty's house stayed dark. Blinds drawn. Car unmoved. For the first time in years, Willow Creek smelled like fear, but not ours. We spent the day prepping for the emergency meeting. 3-phase drop, media first, flyers second, full binder third. Tyler's journalist contact at the local station was salivating. This is front page gold. That evening the parking lot overflowed. Folding chairs scraped concrete. Phones recorded before the gavel even fell. Patty arrived in her power pearls and forced smile, but her steps were too quick, eyes too wide. She opened with the usual script. Disruption is a violation of Section 2.9. I stood. Before you continue, I'd like to add something to the agenda. You're not recognized, Mr. Hayes. Tyler stepped forward and dropped the 3-inch binder on the table with a thud that echoed like a gunshot. The board is the agenda tonight. He flipped it open. Audio files. Spreadsheets. Timestamps. The room went graveyard silent. Patty reached for the binder. This is manipulated. The journalist's camera crew rolled in. We verified every document independently. Then the testimony started. Mr. Foster. She photographed my shed through my daughter's window. The Sanders. She threatened our therapy dog. One by one neighbors stood, voices steady, no longer afraid. Hands rose like a wave. Emily rose last. She didn't shout. She just looked Patty dead in the eye. You came into my home. You stood behind my shower curtain while I was vulnerable. And you smiled. So tell me, Patty, was that for property values too? Patty opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Her pearls trembled. Mark stood. According to Section 4.7, 2/3 of homeowners have already signed the petition for a no-confidence vote. The threshold is met. Patty's hand shook as she pulled a folded paper from her bag and laid it on the podium. Effective immediately, I resign. She walked out the side door past the cameras, past the whispers, past every person she'd tried to break. No one followed. No one needed to. The applause that followed wasn't loud. It was relieved, like a neighborhood finally exhaling after holding its breath for years. The next morning her for sale sign went up crooked. Mark called an emergency transition meeting, open doors, no closed sessions. Volunteers stepped forward. New voices. Real ones. I sat on the backyard bench my father built after Vietnam, coffee in hand, Emily leaning against my shoulder. The yard smelled like fresh-cut grass, exactly 2.75 inches, measured by us, not Patty. For the first time in months the street felt like a neighborhood again. Tyler left for his next assignment with one last backup drive. Just in case, he grinned. But you won't need it. He was right. The story went regional, then national. People who'd never met us nodded at the mailbox now. One neighbor left flowers with a note. Thank you for speaking when we couldn't. This was never about flowers or mailboxes or even that recorder. It was about the idea that one woman could turn community into a surveillance state wrapped in pastel cardigans, and bless your heart. She forgot that quiet houses still have ears. And sometimes those ears fight back. So tell me, was the homeowner too ruthless for destroying her little empire, or was the HOA Karen the real criminal hiding behind 47 pages of rules? Who really broke the law here? Drop your verdict in the comments. I'll be reading every single one.